Hello and welcome back to Planning Aces. On this episode, we'll be spotlighting FP&A insights and commentary from three finance leaders who are each rethinking how innovation gets managed inside the business. CFO Chris Sands of InvoiceCloud, CFO Steve Sutter of Celigo, and CFO Niels Boon of Cint. I'm Jack Sweeney, your co-host, and I'll be joined by finance author, former CFO, and our resident thought leader, Glenn Hopper, as we explore what our planning aces are teaching us this time around. In different ways, each of these leaders is wrestling with the same challenge. How do you lean into AI, new data tools, and aggressive go-to-market investments without abandoning discipline? You'll hear how they're structuring AI efforts like real business functions, hardwiring finance into sales strategy, and treating AI bets as portfolios of experiments rather than one big roll of the dice. Glenn joins me to connect the dots and help us surface the practical takeaways after this.
Why are finance teams struggling right now? It's not a lack of skill, it's a lack of time. Even the most talented finance pro has twice as much work as they can handle, if not more. Automation with AI is critical just to survive, let alone reach peak performance. But you don't want just any AI solution. You want one built with finance users in mind. This is where Planful comes in. It's a platform that transforms how you plan, budget, forecast, and more. And with Planful AI, you can transform how you work without sacrificing control. Use Planful AI to streamline workflows, detect anomalies, plan with precision, and get more done. Everything Planful AI assists you with is fully auditable and secure, so you can reduce your manual work and stay proactive, agile, and confident in every decision. Your finance team deserves to be elevated above the repetitive tasks. The best part is, you can get started right away. See Planful AI in action and start elevating your team today.
Hello, welcome to Planning Aces, where we spotlight FP&A insights from finance leaders helping their organizations plan smarter and execute faster. I'm joined today by yet another resident thought leader. We're really happy to have him with us. Finance author, former CFO, tech strategist, Glenn Hopper. Glenn, good to have you with us.
Jack, I'm really glad to be here. I hope I can match your energy today. I'm a little jet lagged, had a long trip across the Pacific, and trying to bring the energy today, trying to match yours at least.
Oh no, where were you? Where are you coming back from?
Yeah, so I'm calling this my 2025 AI World Tour, and I just went about a 31-hour flight from Singapore, but I did the Southeast. This was my second time this year to Southeast Asia, and this time I was in Brunei and Singapore. So wild trip, and then 31-hour trek back was a lot. Nothing like that long of travel will make you feel old. And there's a lot of things that I do that I'm like, yeah, I'm basically 30, but man, losing sleep and all that, I'm dragging a little bit today.
Hey, Singapore, quite a few AI users. Did I see some report or stat on them? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I was surprised to see how widely used AI is in the nation of Singapore.
Well, I'll tell you, Southeast Asia in general, I've turned down quite a few just because of that long haul, but it feels like that whole region, and maybe all of Asia, this is anecdotal from my side without stats to back it up, but I just sold the rights to my latest book in China. And I also am getting a lot of speaking requests there. I think they are. And if you look at what China is doing in the AI space as well, I think that, unlike maybe the EU where there are a lot of privacy protections and things slowing it down, Asia is really leaning in. So I'm getting a lot of requests there. And based on the conversations I had in Singapore, again, anecdotally, I would say that your assumption there is probably right.
I don't know if you had a chance to review some of our planning aces for this episode. We have just three of them who just sharing sort of their mindset when it comes. They touch on AI, most of them. But any commonalities, any themes you see coming forward
So first off, yes, I did. Obviously, I did check out all three of them, and I loved what each of them had to say. And I guess that I don't want to overly simplify it, but discipline comes to mind. I guess when they talk about the way they're running innovation, it's not just a wild throw everything at the wall sort of experimentation. They're running innovation like a managed process. And I talk about this all the time, and where you hear all these stats about, and I know they talked about more than just AI, but right now everybody's talking about AI. So you hear about all these projects that fail, but what these CFOs were saying, that's the projects that succeed. So they're running it like a managed process. They've got formal ownership, clear metrics, tight feedback loops. And really what I hear is build the function when it's warranted. I hear so many people, there's sort of this idea that you can just sprinkle some AI on anything and make it better. But they were looking at, tune go to market with real unit economics, pilot new data tools in small steps. And I think it was Chris that said, finance isn't known for creativity, but there is, and I don't mean Enron level creativity, but in finance, there is creativity in how we manage this. And I think creativity with controls and moving upstream and not just being the reporting function. I loved everything that they were saying this month.
Well, let's tee up the first clip, and that will be Chris. I referring to Chris Sands, the CFO of InvoiceCloud. This company likes to tell us they're reshaping digital payments and customer engagement for utilities and service providers. Just a footnote on Chris: before joining InvoiceCloud, Chris held senior finance roles across a variety of SaaS and enterprise software firms, and experiences a sharper focus on scalable, data-driven operations. Okay, here's Chris.
But maybe it's not so obvious, right? I mean, you said it well. There's a lot of AI tools out there that you're like, that's cool. Okay, great. Like, what do we get for the coolness, right? And so I think, we don't want to be in a situation where there's lots of cool opportunities to use AI. Leadership is saying we need to be AI forward. And so it's like a binary, hey, we're using AI and it's cool and we check the box because people want us to use AI. We need to find the most impactful use cases. And it's, using AI is not the end, it's the means to the end, right? Which is increased efficiency or growth. And we're certainly building features and functionality into our product to leverage AI. So if you get the growth, you get the efficiency, then you start talking about rule of 70, rule of 60 instead of rule of 40, which is 2015. A little bit of that, but it was very deliberate. So the team is cleverly named AI Ops. The creative stuff doesn't come from finance, so I'm not gonna take any flack for that. There were definitely in the early stages of AI, we saw folks that were power users. They had the genuine interest. It's very clear who these people are in the org because they're way out on the forefront, pushing the boundaries, trying new things. But we had to make the deliberate decision to, okay, let's find these people. Let's bring them together. Let's take them off their other jobs, right? So we literally took people and we're like, we're going to backfill the role that you were doing with someone else because this is your new job. And so we put them on a formal team. We gave them a formal mandate. And that's how we've structured it, right? They're definitely, if you're going to be AI forward as we strive to be, I mean, I think you need to be deliberate about it. You need to put structure around it and make sure that, you're managing it as you would any other new function that you're standing up in the org.
I have to say, what I loved about this is he had an answer. I'm trying to with every interview that we do, discover how, if there's an approach, are they taking steps to identify their champions within the company and leverage that sort of enthusiasm that's out there. And finally, Chris had a story about how they did just that. So I was kind of excited by that.
My favorite thing he said, and he's preaching to the choir when I'm listening here, that AI is not the end in and of itself. It's the means to an end. And I think we're, with the hype cycle with where we are with AI right now, it's everybody saying do some AI without a definition of what that is, but understanding we're not doing AI for the sake of AI. We're looking for that efficiency and growth that he talked about. And what I really liked is if you can, change management is hard, and you can do all the technical things right, but you have to bring the team along. So one of the great things they did was identifying those power users early. These become your evangelists, and because they're passionate about it, they're going to drive that forward. And the fact that they took them out of their standard role and made this their job, that's set up for success. So they pull them out of their role, give them the team, and they treat it like any other function in the business. They give them a mandate, a budget, KPIs, accountability. And when you have people that are passionate about their jobs, because I see this whenever I come into a company, I'm looking for those evangelists and those small wins, because that's how you're going to help get that change management move across the entire team. So yeah, 100%. I love what they're doing.
This, I also thought he's kind of a progressive finance leader. Isn't this unusual that a CFO would say, yes, take my people, take this person. Yes, they're quite competent at what they're doing. Yes, we need competent people doing that. But no, we need him as an AI champion today.
He's very high in the early adopters. And it's funny, there's going to be a lot of people who attempt these early adoptions but fail because they have the wrong approach or wrong understanding. And everything I heard from him, he gets it. And the fact that, finance, we're sometimes our own worst enemy, where we're making our budget so tight that we can't innovate and we can't do the things we need to do. And Chris is doing the exact opposite of that. And the fact, realizing this is the future and we need to dedicate some time and resources to it, understanding that means there's a higher expense in the finance function, but knowing, again, what he talked about, that efficiency and growth that comes out the other side. I love seeing people invest in that. And I would say, I talk to people so often who want to do this, but they keep stopping themselves from kind of the fear of the unknown. So when you hear about a finance function, about a CFO who's leading like this, that's rare, but that's what it's going to take to get to the other side of this. You've got to sort of, and I don't mean overcome your fear and just go bleeding edge out blindly into that cold, dark night and hope for the best, because everything else he said is around strategy too. So yeah, he's definitely a front runner here. And I loved hearing what he said.
Our next planning ace, Steve Sutter, is CFO of Celigo, an automation and integration platform connecting business applications through iPaaS technology. Steve's background includes multiple growth stage roles and a reputation for operational discipline during scale-ups. Here is what Steve shared with us.
In terms of long-term strategy, so when you're executing towards a business model that makes sense, you're going to realize that I need to invest in sales and marketing, maybe at an excessive rate for some duration to establish traction. But you need to know ultimately what's the efficient go-to-market strategy look like. And you need to be planting seeds with your CMO and your CRO about where they need to take it, right? So, hey, we can hire maybe a new class of sales rep and a new OTE, but I'm coaching my CRO to keep in mind, for instance, the quota to OTE ratio, right? Because if it can maintain an intelligent ratio, you want to pay your sales rep more, that's fine, because we needed people who have more depth and experience in the sales motion. But that maybe means higher ASPs leading to higher quotas. And that ratio of quota to OTE, on target earnings, is something that I'm establishing with the CRO as we explore enhanced go-to-market strategies within the teams that support that. The ratio of sales engineers to sales reps, the various streams that we're building our pipeline through, and the unit economics for each of those streams. With our CMO and planting those seeds, such that you've established the path to where you're going to get the business to, and that makes it sustainable and that makes it profitable. And then you can start to fine tune. But in particular, I would say as you're scaling through 100 million, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to have to place some bets. You're going to have to figure it out. One of the things I would, I try to remind myself is, acknowledge failure, right? Because as soon as you've acknowledged failure, you can move on to something that will likely be successful. Okay. And so keeping that in mind with all of these initiatives, that didn't work. Okay. We're going to move on. We're going to shut that down and we're going to move on to the next possible solution that's going to scale for us. So acknowledging failure is something that I like to keep in mind. And as we march towards a logical business model. I think a really exciting use case that we're doing is our customer success team. Before they make a call to one of those 4,000 customers, they're like re-educating themselves on this account. What did they license? When did they license it? How are they using the product? How many endpoints are engaged? They've licensed 10 endpoints. They're using 8. How many flows are running, et cetera. All that data is located in NetSuite and Salesforce in our own database, and we're aggregating that into integrator.io. We're pushing it through another large language model with specific instructions. The output of that data set in the LLM is literally a PowerPoint presentation that lays out, they've licensed this on slide number 1. They're utilizing this against those entitlements in slide number 2. The volume of flows they're running over, the last 18 months has done this. And it's really just a complete picture of that account that is built on the fly by integrator.io. And then you can just imagine how much time that took to build previously by logging into Salesforce and NetSuite and another system. And so that's a very exciting one because, it's like tripling the efficiency of customer success manager and the accounts that they can address on a daily basis.
So that was just one of a number of use cases he supplied us with. But I love the scaling smart means failing fast. I've heard that so many times, but when he said it, it just really put an exclamation mark behind it. And learning along the way. And of course, he links financial modeling directly to the go-to-market execution of Celigo. He's sharing with us some of the own Celigo technology advances as well along the way, which is perfectly fine. But hey, Glenn, what stood out for you?
Yeah, he is exactly what you want in a scale-up CFO because scale-up is such a hectic and chaotic time, and Steve sounds like the voice of reason there. And it's finance, again, it's that discipline, but it's also, again, moving finance upstream and making it part of the strategy. Everything he said about setting guardrails with the quota to OTE ratios, payback and CAC to LTV, all that. It can be easy if you're not paying attention in that scale up time to kind of lose track of where your investment's going and how you're spending your money as you're just chasing that growth. And the way that he talked about balancing talent quality with expected output, and shaping that resourcing mix, the sales engineer to rep ratio, the pipeline sources, unit economics of each channel. That's, you have to scale smartly as you grow. And everything he said, you just see this sort of, durable motion from it where you're not going to kind of get out over your skis. So that kind of discipline in that kind of environment is so key and critical to success.
For finance leaders who are trying to achieve what Steve just shared, which is this great partnership that he has with the go-to-market folks, the sales folks, that's already in place here. He lined that up. You get a sense that he arrived and he explained how it works with everybody. Here are the meetings I expect to be part of.
It goes back to that discipline, and it is, you have to move upstream. You have to be proactive. You have to understand what the end goal is with the strategy. And not throw good money after bad. And I liked, again, he said acknowledging failure quickly to protect capital and time, because there's so much money being spent as you're in that scale up phase. So the idea of name the myth, shut it down, redeploy to what's compounding, and just that cadence will kind of speed that discovery up. So, the approach he's taking there is the only way to successfully get through this and sort of keep everything in line with, yes, we have this rapid growth. We're keeping cost in check. I know it's a time to spend, but, we need to, we need to do it rationally and control and guide that growth through the spend.
Finally, we turn to Niels Boon, CFO of Cint Group, the global insights technology company enabling data collection at scale. Niels began his career in corporate finance and strategy before joining Cint to guide its growth and digital transformation. Here's Niels.
Yeah, I think that the biggest differentiator or difference with these AI investments compared to the regular ones, let's say, is that there's even more uncertainty around what exactly it will bring, right? So there are many ideas, but then the adoption is maybe high, but like the effect of it, maybe not so much. If you read articles about it as well, I think like 80% is not paying off yet, or it's not fully adopted yet, even though it's rolled out on paper. So it's difficult to have some certainty and reliability around that. So you need to work with a bit more uncertainty. And of course, you can look and take things in certain steps, right? That you say we first reach the first milestone. If that's working, then we invest more. So one example is we launched a tool in HR actually, where employees can ask their HR questions that you normally have. Like, where's my payroll, or can I have paternity leave, or like whatever it is that you have for HR. We now have an AI bot that was trained with a lot of data by the real HR team, let's say. And that's answering now a lot of those questions directly. And this is really successful. And now we're thinking about rolling this out for any questions you might have, for example, to the legal team or to the finance team, that can be handled by this as well. So like that, we didn't say half a year ago, let's just invest X and hope that all the teams will adopt it. We now know what are the best practices from this first team that we tried it with. It seems to be successful. Okay, great. Now we can roll it out with other teams as well. So that's one way to kind of mitigate the risk there. And then we have a couple of, like the examples I gave for the finance team, they are very specific to a certain workflow where you can actually see that if it works, you know how much time it will save you, right? So you can do a demo, you can run it. For example, the balance sheet reconciliation, you can see how good the quality is of that. And then when you're satisfied, you can roll it out. And also those, they don't have to cost millions. It can be smaller tools as well. And like that, you can take it step by step as well. So there is not one size fits all tool. For example, even within finance, it's different ones. And then for the different teams, there will be different solutions possible. For example, on the sales side, the go-to-market, degeneration, filtering through, making sure that you talk with the clients at the right moment. That can all be made faster with AI tools out there. So that is great. And then the biggest one that I mentioned around synthetic data, that's the big bet. So there's basically nothing you can calculate. We just have to decide together with the board, how much do we want to set aside to have a big bet here. And if it becomes a big thing with synthetic data, then we want to be the number one authority in that space as well. Also defining the quality level of synthetic data. So how do we know that it is actually working? Can you compare it with real humans? What are the metrics to look at? So we as Cint want to define those things before it becomes an industry. But no one knows, maybe it never becomes an industry, right? So this is the big bet that we have. So there is more about how much money do we want to reserve for that. So that's not even an ROI calculation. Yeah.
All right. Niels talking about piloting AI tools in small, contained steps, building proof before scale. But Glenn, does this mirror smart capital allocation in your mind?
Yeah. So Jack, think about what he's doing there. I mean, as I was hearing that, I was thinking he's running these investments like a portfolio. You've got small pilots, clear hypotheses, stage gates, and then the results are going to unlock the next tranche. So it's not all your eggs in one basket, and it is diversification. He talked about starting with HR, which makes sense because there's a lot of documentation around HR, and that's a great one to build on first. But then you take your lessons from that, you apply it to the next. He talked about legal and finance. And what I see in that approach to technology, think of it as like classic FP&A discipline applied to innovation. So I loved hearing their approach there.
And when he mentions the big bet on synthetic data investments with, uncertain ROI, how should finance think about those?
Yeah, I mean, that's an R&D investment, and it's think about it, it's a big capital investment. So you separate it from the business as usual. We don't know what the ROI is going to be. So you cap your exposure, you ring fence the team, and you watch the leading indicators of, data coverage, model accuracy on target tasks, time to pilot, graduation from pilot to scale, early commercial signals. And I think that there's so many studies out there and all this noise around ROI from capital investments. I mean, from AI investments, and to think about it as what can we do operationally, and then what do we do that is kind of the bet on the future, and that's R&D, and you've got to treat it separately. Like you said, we don't know what the market's going to be. There may not be a market at all, but if we want to be at the forefront of it, we have to invest now. So I loved his approach to that.
Yeah. So, and each of the three seem to be designing a system that involves learning, where data, structure, and accountability let this type of experimentation scale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's fine. There's the old CF no idea, but finance isn't there to slow things down. The idea is make innovation sustainable, but you put the right guardrails and feedback in place and you move forward there. And I think looking at these, the ones that need to be treated like capital investment projects, treat them that way. And then on the other side, I think about this with companies that are rolling out, enterprise-wide licenses to ChatGPT or whatever. That's not an investment. That's a software cost. So you have to treat them differently. So I think he's right on spot with the way he's looking at it.
I don't want to, let's boil it down to one word. What would that be if you were, and maybe you already revealed this to us, but what would that be in terms of these three? What is the sort of the word that capsulizes their mindset, their shared mindset?
Yeah, it goes back to discipline. Like we said at the beginning, that's the job. It's guide innovation without losing rigor and, keep funding what the evidence proves.
At the same time, I got to tell you, I thought Chris Sands stands out with that, again, with the SWAT team. I guess that's my phrase, not his. But somehow that visual of just reassigning people who are really psyched to understand better how this, AI technology is going to, innovate their business models or what have you. That's an exciting place to be. So you can get caught up with what Chris was sharing with us, I suppose.
Yeah, and even outside of finance, that's just smart management and smart change management.
Get the people who are excited more involved, so they can sort of spread the excitement. So hey, tell us something about like some of the trips you're taking.
The amount of time I'm spending talking about AI right now versus the number of projects that are going is kind of interesting, and I think what it represents is the Gartner hype cycle. I would say we are at the peak of inflated expectations around AI. And I think some people have kind of caromed off that peak going to the other side. And some are slipping into this trough of despair because it's everything we talked about in the show. We don't know how to do it. We don't know what the capabilities are, what the limitations are. We're getting pressure to do it. So some of these projects aren't being funded. So, or are being funded, but aren't succeeding. And I think the reason I'm talking about it so much right now is because people want to hear that there is light at the end of the tunnel, or that there's some kind of promised land on the other side. And what does that practically mean? So all my travels right now are, I'm talking to, everyone from government organizations to private company or to public companies, but to individual companies. And it's a mix of kind of keynote speaking where let's talk about what's possible and what you need to do and the guardrails you need to put in place and all that. And then it's a lot of training as well. So this week I'm in Austin, at the Chief Executive Group Leadership Summit people are choosing the day before the summit starts. They can either go play golf or they can come listen to me ramble for 8 hours and people are going to come here, a full day training session on AI. But the thing is, we have to understand this technology to move forward in it. So I love when leaders are actually investing the time and effort to say, okay, I understand my domain expertise is finance, but it's incumbent on me to understand this technology so that I can help guide and shape strategy around it. So I think the demand for talking about this and training on it is so high right now because people are still trying to figure out what's possible, and to not be part of that 80% or, depending on whatever study you're looking at, of the projects and investments in AI that are failing right now, because there are ones that are successful. It's just it's not the technology. It's a matter of the team that's implementing it and how it's being implemented that's driving the success or failure of it. So a lot of people want to hear about it right now. And, it's driving me around the world, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, just a question about your book. You mentioned, I think that you had just sold the rights inside China. Tell us something about what that means. This is a book that you've already published in the U.S. and you've been on the circuit with. Is that right? Or is this a different book?
Yeah, no, this is my second book. This is AI Mastery for Finance Professionals. And
when was that published?
October of 24, so a little over a year ago.
A book on AI that came out a year ago. When is the sequel? When's the next one? So you must have a few clues as to that.
Well, yes. Thank you for asking, Jack, because this is an early promo. I'm currently under contract with Wiley Finance for my third book, which is going to be called The AI Ready CFO. And I'll be done with my part here in the next couple of months. But it's looking like the publication deadline, we may not see that for close to a year from now, just by the time it works through all the publication process and everything. And I used to worry, if it's going to be published that late, then it's going to be it's going to be not relevant. But this one in particular is about everything that our guests were talking about. It's about that change management. It's about how to roll these projects out. And truthfully, we are still, as far as companies that are successfully pulling this off, we're still very much in the early adopter innovator phase of who's rolling this out. So
one last question, just about the rights in China. Will that have a payoff, a big payoff? China's notorious for, when it comes to intellectual property, we're not, I don't know, it's kind of murky in my understanding.
Yeah, and it wasn't a priority, and it wasn't even something I considered. Honestly, it was the publisher reached out to me and said, hey, China's interested in the rights. And you get in this whole thing around, maybe the political side of it or whatever. And I thought, ultimately, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Asia is leaning very much into AI, and there is huge interest there. What ends up happening with, who comes out on top, if you hear some people talk, it's an existential crisis about, the East versus West on who wins this. But it is a global consideration right now. And I think that it just opens up a new market for me. I don't know. I mean, these kind of books, it's not like I'm writing, a bestseller fiction book. These are very niche publications. So nothing is going to be a retirement plan for me, but it is interesting. This one, because my book it's a textbook. It's not, it goes through and it talks about generative AI, but it mostly just talks about classical machine learning and applications across everything from private equity, venture capital, portfolio management to corporate finance. So it's a deep in the weeds book. And I'm maybe not selling my book here, but it's not for people who just want a casual understanding of what AI is. And it's because I really believe that for us to drive innovation in this next round and use this technology, we have to have more than just a cursory knowledge of it. So it led me to write a 100,000 word book on how the technology works. It's specific to finance and what finance applications would be.
Well, that's wild. Glenn Hopper, thank you for kicking off, helping us kick off this episode and hopefully quite a few more of Planning Aces. We look forward to having you join us on a regular basis. Glenn, thanks for being part of this.
Thanks, Jack. This was a lot of fun.